Hey everyone, welcome back. Week 2, Greater Culture Classic. We've got a great workout presented by Live Well Recover and then designed by Turpentine Design. This one is a big contrast to week 1. I see the facial expressions. Week 1, all about power, barbell, squatting, lifting heavy.
Mm-hmm.
Switched it up. Got a little gymnasty with this one.
Yeah.
So talk to us about event 2.
Okay, so event 2 is, all gymnastics, right? So we're getting in some, I'm going to call them heavy dumbbell bench press, just to kind of, prime the muscles.
Yeah.
And then we're knocking out a big chunk of pull-ups, some more bench press, a big chunk of toe to bar, more bench press, and a big chunk of muscle-ups for Brad. And then we have to finish with bench press. I thought it finished with the muscle-ups. And then you got to get back on that bench, just the little icing on top. Yeah. And then we get a nice little break. And then we are asked to hold on to 2 tiny little handles for a mass set of double unders, right? So we're trying to get the biggest amount that we can in one set.
Yeah. And so for the RX teams, fellas are going to be moving 50-pound dumbbells, ladies moving 35. And those chunks of work are pretty big. And then for intermediate, weight decreases a little bit. Reps decrease as well, but we're still going to have them doing pull-ups, toes to bar, and muscle-ups. So maybe there's a chance for some folks to either get a first muscle-up or chip away at some of them. And then for our scale division, they're going to be looking at doing some jumping pull-ups, similar to what we saw in the open. We're going to have some feet getting above hip height for the toe to bar, and then some burpee pull-ups. So you can use a little bit of that momentum, try and kip to get that chin over the bar. And then everybody's doing double unders.
Yeah.
And the sort of creation of this workout was this idea of a push-pull combo.
Yeah.
And how we love chasing the pump, especially in the summer months here. Everybody's like, hey, I want to do some bicep curls, I want to do some tricep extensions. So we were like, well, let's put it into a Metcon and see if we can get people a nice pump from doing this event. And having done it, what are your just initial thoughts?
You saw me just pick up that Fit Aid, and I had to kind of bring my mouth down to it. We need straws. Our arms are roasted. I tried to redo my hair afterwards, and they were done. So so the pump has been achieved.
Yeah.
Maybe a little too successfully. Yeah.
Because the first bench press, even the pull-ups, were like, this is okay.
Yeah.
And then each round, just progressively, it felt like your arms were filling up with blood. And when I jumped up for the muscle-ups, the lockout at the top was like, oh, there's all those bench press, and my triceps are now feeling it. So it's going to challenge athletes to be a little bit more efficient with their movement versus just raw gripping and ripping and trying to get through it.
Yeah, for me, it was my muscle-ups aren't strong anyways. And then once my core was shot, not only from the toe to bar, but having to balance with single arm bench press gets your core way more than you thought it would. So I needed my core to help me get up there, and it was just it wasn't there today. And as you'll see.
Yeah. So let's take a peek at the workout. We got a chance to knock this one out. We've got a 12-minute cap for part 1. Everybody's starting the jumps at minute 13, regardless of when you finish part 1. So we'll see what we've got here. Chelsea, you're starting off on the bench. Our initial strategy was you try and knock out a big set. I try and clean up whatever was left, and that way it would cut down on some of our transitions with the bench press.
Yeah, I think that worked out pretty well. If you have someone that is stronger with that bench, definitely have them do the tail end of it. That way you don't want to be transitioning on and off that bench too much. As you'll see in the later rounds, I can barely get off the bench.
Yeah.
Because
the dumbbells pin you down when you're done with your set. And so some of the standards that we're looking for here, the rep starts when the dumbbell is locked out. So if you can sit back and put those dumbbells in a locked out position from the get-go, it's going to help you to start. Otherwise, you're essentially doing an extra rep if you pull the dumbbells to your chest and
that's
press
what I got to towards the end. But it was I couldn't get them. I couldn't start with them up. It was just not happening.
And then we want to see one head of each dumbbell hit the shoulders. And so what you'll notice here is we've got one bench. All teams will be rocking and rolling with one bench. So for our mixed teams, we'd recommend dumbbells on either side. For our same-sex teams, you can put one set of dumbbells, both trading in and out. So we get through those first 30 dumbbell bench pretty quickly, and we are off and running into the pull-ups, which you went a little off script there on round 1.
They felt good, and I knew no matter if I did 5 or 10, it was going to all fall apart in the end eventually.
So a nice little set of 10 there to open it up. I hit a set of 10 as well. So any style of pull-up is fair game here. Butterfly, kipping, strict. What are some of the things you're thinking about with pull-ups?
Keeping my feet together and making sure I have a tendency to shorten that rep if I'm not paying attention. So really making sure that chin gets over the bar because I can do eyes over the bar really easily.
It's funny, we've
And then
had a lot of chest to bars lately because
Yeah.
of the Open and quarterfinals. CrossFit loves to test those chest to bars. So we've done a lot of them. And there's a moments where you're like, man, we haven't done pull-ups in a little while. We just did Murph, but it is amazing how when you practice and do a lot of chest to bar, how the pull-up does feel a little bit shorter in the range of motion, maybe a
Yeah.
little bit more efficient. You're like, I just have to get my chin over the bar. I don't have to work super hard to get my chest all the way up there.
That's when I lost the rhythm, and I said, "Oh, we're kipping now."
Yeah, butterfly is such a rhythm type of
Yeah.
movement where when the rhythm's gone, make the quick audible, switch it to kipping or something else that'll help you to just knock out those reps down the stretch.
Yeah, and we've done a lot of core work this week
We
in the
have.
gym, and so I definitely my core isn't sore,
Yep.
but it really crushed me this week. And
Yeah.
it's not that it's sore, but it's just not working.
Yeah. And even with a workout like this where you think it's a lot of push, a lot of pull, like you are surprised at how much you need your core. We think the toe to bar is the big core movement here, but having your feet on the floor here and being able to stabilize two dumbbells is very different than a barbell bench. Barbell, you can kind of get away with one side maybe being a little stronger or weaker than the other, but with the dumbbell bench, it really does bring to light any of those imbalances you might have strength-wise.
Yeah.
We kept the similar rep scheme for this
Yeah, I
one.
got to
want
12
to say
on that
you hit
one.
to 12. Bench press, I like it. I feel pretty strong about it. So even still here, I felt pretty good with these dumbbells trying to get through them. They started to slow down a little bit, but the other thing too here is if you're a very strong athlete, you probably can just grip and rip these dumbbells. But with how long the workout is, still making sure we're breathing as we're rocking and rolling, like breathing out as you push the dumbbells away, breathing in as they come back down can be helpful. So now I think this is where the pump is starting to set in, where you can already see us kind of shaking it out. Like those triceps are starting to feel it. The lats, definitely, we're starting to feel it more and more here as we get into these toe to bar.
Yeah, and for that bench, if your feet don't touch the ground, definitely get some plates underneath there because you're going to need your feet to push off of. You don't want those feet rolling around on there.
And so for these toe to bar, especially for me personally, when my core starts getting tired or the grip starts getting tired, it's sort of my cue to try and elongate or make my kip a little bit bigger. So reaching those feet further back, pushing a little bit further or harder on that bar allows my feet to come up. Some people, if you're very gymnasty and very efficient, like you'll see them have a very quick kip or just a very little flick of the feet. Mine is much more bigger, a little bit more rhythmic. Some of the big gymnastics there.
You can tell I'm a little out of practice. My backswing breaks down pretty quickly.
You've got that athlete kind of flick them back and then flick them up to the rig.
Well, my limbs are so long. I like to shorten it so the feet don't get too far away because then it really taxes the core if my feet are far away from my body.
Yeah. All right, so we are, if you want to call it halfway through the workout,
10,
we're almost, I guess, halfway through. We've done 60 of the 120 bench press. We've already done 100 reps on the rig. So all that's left is 60 bench and 20 muscle ups. And what you're going to find is that this part of the workout is where you make your money.
Yeah, or lose it.
Or lose it.
Yeah, for this one, I knew I wasn't going to get past 10, but I also didn't want you to be too crushed before going into those muscle ups. So definitely, I can't get off the bench. Definitely communicate here so that you don't leave your stronger partner doing everything. So that's when I told you, hey, just do 15 and I'll clean up the last 5 reps so that you got a little rest before going into those muscle ups.
15 here was actually pretty effortful. Looking back, having more breaks and just switching out on the bench, I think would have been fine. I think we were both concerned with how much time we were going to lose to it. And what we ended up finding was we were going to lose time anyway to resting for the gymnastics movements. Like if you're not as proficient with toe to bar, muscle ups, you're probably going to rest under the rig anyway. So, perhaps breaking up those dumbbell bench press more could save you just a little bit.
Yeah.
Because I did notice too, like coming off of the bench, having done like 15 reps or so, like you do have a pretty good pump in your arms where it's hard to jump up right away. Like if you hit a set of 5 and it was my turn already, it'd be like, oh, I could use another 10 seconds or so before I'm ready to jump up.
Yeah.
So we've hit our 30 bench and now we begin the journey to 20 bar muscle ups.
I just want to apologize in advance to Brad for making him do all 20 and to you guys for having to watch what's about to happen.
I will say this first set of 5, I had in my head, like, let's do 4 sets of 5. That first set of 5 was so effortful on my triceps where I was So typically with my muscle ups, you'll see me try and kick those feet up. That was one of your closer ones. I would
It
say.
was. It's just like my feet weren't getting up high enough.
Yeah, your
to
core
get my-
was kind of
Yeah.
lagging behind a little bit.
And so I was like, in my head, I was like, keep your feet together. And then they just
Yeah.
they just didn't want to go up.
Yeah. And I think this is the culmination of the workout. So this is where it really sets in of like your arms are a little bit blown up, your core's a little bit fried.
Mhm.
So doing high skill gymnastics under fatigue is really a different game than coming out fresh. If we would
Yeah.
have started with muscle ups and then like dropped the challenge down to toe to bar and then pull ups. And even mine, like that was a set of 4, and I can already tell the technique is starting to break down where I'm getting a little bit more of that chicken wing going. Some of the things I think about with muscle ups is trying to keep those feet together, but get my knees as high as I can, because the higher they go, typically my hips can follow.
Mhm.
And then for me on that, when I receive or kind of catch myself in that dip position, I'm trying really hard to let my feet swing back to the wall behind me as almost a kipping dip. And man, even doing that, my triceps were really fatigued here. So as I get up on top of the bar, I kind of impatient to try and kick my feet up to try and give myself a little help there. But that lockout at the top was just getting to the point where as soon as I hit lockout, I was like, just get out of lockout as fast as you can, because that didn't feel great. So we dropped it down. I think that was 5-4-3.
Mhm.
So that's 12 reps. I want to say we started the muscle ups at about 6.5 minutes.
Mhm.
So we're 2 minutes into this thing. We've got 12 minutes.
That was one of my better ones.
That
but
one, I thought we had it there.
My feet, man, they just the nervous system was not communicating with the rest of the body.
The fatigue was certainly there.
Yeah.
And this can certainly happen in a workout when you have plans or you have different schemes you've got, and you get into that part of the workout and you realize, ooh, my body is not communicating the way I'd like it to. And so figuring out what are the adjustments we can make, what can we do in the moment. Part of me felt like my heart rate came down a little bit, mainly because we were resting more in between these sets. And I'm personally one who that first rep sometimes is harder than reps 2, 3, and 4, because I can get the momentum off the second swing. So the idea of doing singles is not something that for me I personally like, but I know some people it does work really well for them, of like just trying to stay with it with doing singles. So I think that was 4 to get us to 16.
I think we were at 17.
Okay, that makes sense.
Because I think you did 3 more, or maybe no, that was on the bench. Maybe, I don't know.
I think I might have one more here. That was it. Yeah,
and then
this
you were
is where
like,
we
"Hey,
thought we were done." It was
you
like,
have to do bench," and I
just
said,
kidding.
"What?"
Yeah. And these reps were very effortful as well.
Yeah, I
So
think
the
you'll see me fail one of like
the back to back tricep and chest usage here is certainly a challenge.
But this was a good one in us, like just cleaning up reps and getting it done.
Yeah,
I was trying not to waste time on the bench because I knew we were getting close to the cap. So I was like, okay, these aren't gonna.
It's certainly one of those, like a lot of gymnastics movements, where you always encourage athletes leave a few reps in the tank. You never want to go to failure. Now, if it's the last set of a workout, maybe go for it like that. If it's like, hey, we got nothing else after this. But even early on, even if it feels really good, I still encourage athletes break before you need to.
Yeah.
And I think the same can be said for the bench here. As soon as you start to feel like it's getting sticky, like you're holding at the top for more than like 2 or 3 seconds, like that's your cue. Drop the dumbbells, switch it out, get somebody else in there. Because you'd be surprised at how 15 seconds to 20 seconds can allow you to recover enough to get some more good reps in.
But you also don't want to be in a situation where both partners are now at failure.
They're blown up, yeah.
And you're not getting anything up. Like, because on this one, when I start to get towards the end, I was like, okay, and we only had a few reps left, but I was like
7 or 8 left at this stage.
Yeah, and I gave you 2 more at the end because I was like, this is my last one.
Exactly.
Like it's not going to happen after this.
I think that also lets you know you hit the workout right when it's like, okay, I'm getting close to or hitting that failing point right at the end cap here. So like I said, we started the muscle ups at 6:30, and it took us 5 minutes, almost 5 minutes to do muscle ups and bench press. So the time cap, 12 minutes, certainly accessible for folks. And for folks who maybe aren't as strong with the muscle ups, like they'll have time to recover enough to try and get some in, because those are going to be a big differentiator, I think. So now we've got a 1 minute rest before our max set of unbroken double unders. And I pick up the rope here just to kind of see. And I've got pretty light plastic handles and a metal rope, so it's about as light of a rope as you can get. And those couple single unders here, whew, I was like, oh boy, like I could feel my biceps and shoulders just from that, and even hanging onto the rope, my triceps were feeling it a little bit.
Yeah, it was when every time I did trip, it was because I had lost where the rope was in space. Yeah. It's like you feel it in your wrist and it's moving, but then you're like, where am I? You're kind of just like floating.
Yeah. We thought this might be a fun way to test out skill proficiency as well as like coordination under fatigue with the double under, especially going for an unbroken set, because I think it is just a different animal having to do them under fatigue, with the muscle fatigue, with the breathing heavy, and seeing what you're capable of. Mm-hmm. It really is going to put an emphasis on your proficiency. So technique-wise, what are some of the things you're thinking about when it comes to double unders that you kind of fall back on?
Sometimes I get a little lazy, so I have to remind myself to keep jumping and putting effort into the jump. The jump doesn't just happen. And so because I kind of like rely like, oh, my body will jump, but it doesn't always. So you got to remind it to.
Yep.
Relax the face.
That's a big one.
Lightly hold those handles so that you don't get too tense in the shoulders. What about you? What are you thinking about?
So feet together for me, and then for me, I want to feel my hands acting like they're throwing the rope down in front of me. Mm-hmm. That kind of forces my hands to stay a little closer and feel like I can. I think of it like stay within the phone booth, because we see a lot of folks, their hands go wide, they go back. But if I'm thinking throw the rope down in front of me, that's helpful. And for this set, whether it looks like it or not, I in my mind was thinking tall, slow double unders here. So I was trying to get a little bit of a taller jump, because that usually gives me a little more play where I don't have to be super precise. Like the lower your jump, the faster your rope is going, you have to be very precise. Yeah. So in thinking about a big max set, it might be more effortful to jump like this with a little bit more height, but it's a little safer. And I think that might have been 100, which I was actually really pumped about. Yeah. I was not sure how many I was going to be able to do. And so as soon as I did that set and I looked, I was like, well, we got a minute and a half left. I was like, I'm going to wait. And basically with, 5 seconds left, start a new set. But they have a 3-minute window. As long as the first jump is before the 3-minute window, you can count that set, and both partners can work at the same time here. Mm-hmm. So you can do as many sets as you'd like.
Yeah, I definitely got a little bit too much knees in this jump and need to pull it into the feet a little bit more. I think I'm just working a little too hard. But again, I don't do double unders a lot, so I'm pretty pumped that I got to 51. Mm-hmm. That 50 was my goal. So to get up there was a nice feeling. Yeah. Keep it moving. Yeah, and this part of the workout, it won't count score-wise as many points as part A. It's going to be more or less 50%. So it still counts towards your total and can make a difference, but we understand that this is a very specific skill set we're testing, so the point system will accommodate for that. Mm-hmm. But it was funny, as we were getting ready for it, I was like, I haven't warmed up my feet or calves a whole lot, but then having done all the bench and jumping on and off the rig and this and that, I was like, yeah, I think they're fine. And then the arms were just pretty fatigued. So we both are going to try and go for another set here before the buzzer. It is funny how you can feel like your form and your technique is dialed in and you're like, this is a great set. And then all of a sudden just something happens and boom, you trip. Yeah. And that's kind of what this last set was for me. I was in my head like, let's go a little bit faster this time. So you'll probably notice maybe the frequency is a little faster. I'm trying to push it a little bit more, which causes me to trip around 40 or 50 reps here. So, some thoughts for the double unders here. Stay relaxed. Higher jump, especially for faltering on the rhythm. Mm-hmm. Keep those hands where you can see them. And you get to add those two together. So that is workout number 2, presented by Live Well, Recover, and designed by Turpentine Design. Any other suggestions, especially when it comes to warming up or getting ready for this one? Because on paper, you're like, okay, I just got to warm up my chest. Having done it, anything that you would recommend for folks to do to get ready for it? Yeah, so normally we warm up our shoulders together. Like we do band stuff together, and they're both pulling. For this one, I would do the same stuff, but do it individually. Like make sure each shoulder is moving in some different ranges of motion by itself and not connected to a fixed point, because that dumbbell is going to put some weird rotations into the shoulder. So you want to make sure you can handle that.
Yeah, and I think for me, opening up the whole side body. So I love like putting a band around the rig, elbow in it, and I'm really trying to open up and stretch out the lats on the side, because you use them a lot between the kips and the pull-ups, the toe to bar. Like you're putting a lot of work into that lat. So the more that it can move and has some free range of motion, I think the better. And then same thing with the chest, because those dumbbells have to come down. We need each head to hit. Sometimes we can be a little bit limited in our mobility where I come down, I'm like, I can't get the dumbbells any further. So we really need to open up that chest so that that dumbbell can come down, touch the chest, and then drive back up. So really spend some time working on that. And then for those double unders, you know, feet and things like that, get those warmed up. But practicing some of them under fatigue, light grip, I think it's going to be your best bet. But it's a fun one. Very gymnastic. So for those of you who maybe didn't appreciate how heavy the barbell got in week 1, time to shine here in week 2. Whether you're striving for that first muscle up or knocking out some sets, it'll be fun to see how folks do on the leaderboard for this one. We look forward to seeing how you tackle this workout and seeing what kind of scores we get for our second week of the Greater Culture Classic. For Chelsea and Brad, good luck with this one. Have fun and let it rip.
Bye.